call the meeting to order. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are a Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. Our panel today is, to my far left, Harvey Diamond, to my left, Robert Hutchings, and I'm the chair, Robert Buss. The assessor is Matthew Barocas, and our secretary today is Belhan Rojo. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statement that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by council and is independent of it and the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the municipal board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the board will then deliberate in private and make its decision. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. Our first property today is 155 Maiton Avenue. If you'd like to have a seat.
Please state your full name. Do you say you have been to represent the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Please state your full name.
Jared Story?
Do you swear that you have been to represent the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Baracus, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Okay, so roll number 14091124000, 155 Maiton Avenue. Just to start off, we've got a request for burden of proof to be passed on to the applicant. They didn't submit the mailer. The homeowner, the property owner, pardon me, had called in and put in a 311 inquiry at the end of March 2018. I spoke with the owner. I was the person who dealt with the inquiry. They said they were having trouble filling out the mailer and they might be a few days late. I said, okay, that's fine. Hand it in and we'll accept it. If you turn to page 2 of my report, in terms of request for information, so the top table down to 2017, you'll see that an extension was granted by the department until June 1st, 2018. So he was, for one, calling in, he acknowledged getting the mailer. So that's not the issue. I spoke with him personally, telling him to hand it in, helping him with it. He got a hold of the department, got an official extension applied to him. The issue was he just never handed the mailer in.
So an extension was applied and you never received
He
it?
never received anything.
Okay, we will hear from appellant on this issue?
So I spoke with the owner, and there's some confusion because the owner's under the impression that everything has been handed in and they're in good standing, so I'm not sure exactly what to tell you about that, but I don't have a registered letter or anything like that to prove it, but it just seems that the owner's under the impression that it was submitted, and that's all the information that everybody was.
Did the owner give you any dates as to when it was submitted?
No, he did mention that he had an extension, and they were having some issues with it. But he didn't say when he meant it. He was under the impression that it had been submitted, so that's all I can say to that.
So do you have a copy of the
No, I do not.
submission?
I do not.
So we don't even know it exists, and the city doesn't seem to have a copy. Give us some nebulous evidence that maybe it was submitted, but we don't even know what was submitted.
You're-
So,
No, you're correct.
okay,
I do not have it.
that's my question, thanks.
Fair enough.
Bob, any questions on the matter?
No, thank you.
We will take a short recess and make a decision. Okay, call the meeting back to order. We will grant the city's non-compliance issue, request, and therefore the appellant will go first.
Okay, so, subject property is 155 Layton Avenue, it's in the Elmwood area. So the property is located on the east side of Henderson Highway, directly across the street from Elmwood Cemetery in the Elmwood area. The improvement is a 2.5-story structure built in 1968 with a variant age of 1978. The property is presently being used as a multifamily residential building with 9 one-bedroom suites and 3 two-bedroom suites. The site size, according to the City of Winnipeg Property Tax Department records, is 10,531 square feet, and it's zoned R2. If you go to my brief, page 3, you can see some photos of the subject. And, 1, 2, and 3 show you the location and the present physical condition. And if you'll turn with me to my page 7, what we've done is taken actual financials and stabilized them over a 2-year period. We've come to a effective gross income of $109,505. Expense ratio, 43.8%, bringing us to a net operating income of $61,567. Capitalized to a value of $1,026,121, rounded to our requested value of $1,026, with an indicated market value per suite of $85,500. We have submitted our cap rate study for apartments. We've looked at about 20 sales and determined the market for apartments within the reference date, and What's interesting about this is that Mighton, the subject property, is actually included in our capitalization rate. So it's sold within the reference period with a capitalization rate of 6.15%. We've stabilized that to 6.05%, so the issue is that the assessor is using a 4.7% capitalization rate, and we're using 6, which is in line with our study. So again, we request a value on this property of $1,026,000. Thank you.
And I thank you. Mr. Barakas, do you have any questions?
Yeah. Okay. So property sold in March of 2014, correct?
Correct.
It's sold for $1,365,000, correct?
That's correct.
Looking at a reference date about 4 years down the road, would you say that the price of multifamily development has gone up or down at that time?
I would say that, well, first of all, we know that the sale price is somewhat relevant, but we also know by valuation theory that we can't buy value, so it's not an indication of the value of the reference date. And I think that if someone were looking at this property specifically today, you would likely apply a higher capitalization rate than you perhaps would. You might be less optimistic today than you were at the reference date. That's what I would say.
So you're saying for this property specifically, you think that the value's gone down since it's sold?
I'm not saying the value has gone down. I'm saying that the sale price does not equate necessarily to the market value that we're looking at the reference date.
Okay, so you think the market value has gone down?
I'm not saying it's gone up or down. I'm saying that the market value at the reference date is likely lower than the sale price
Okay.
by our analysis, yes.
Okay. So going to your stabilization sheet, page 7.
Yep.
What is RVA? Can you clarify that?
Yeah, that references back to our capital study for apartments. So these are imputed market parameters that we use to arrive at the value that would have, that lines up with the sale price in 14.
Okay, so the numbers used in that column, because the property was renovated prior to the sale extensively, correct?
There were some renovations in 14, I wouldn't say extensively, there was some demising in 11 and 12, yeah.
Okay. So the numbers here, they're just taken from basically an
Estimated
opinion of market expenses, income, et cetera. Okay. I noticed that the effective gross income has been going down.
Correct.
That is atypical. Do you know why that's happening?
This property has had some issues with vacancy. We've interviewed the owner, and we've talked about some of the issues they faced with vacancy, and also for a property of this type, the marketing period is longer than average, so when somebody does leave, it takes them a little longer to attract a new tenant. So there's a vacancy issue at play that would that's captured in that EGI.
Okay. Is that vacancy indicated anywhere on the last page?
No, the vacancy is, we're using real numbers, so the vacancy is captured in the EGI.
Okay, so but we don't know what the PGI is. And so in terms of getting like a vacancy percentage?
Well, the PGI is, we're fairly close, I believe, and you're at 127,000, just shy of 128, and our estimated market PGI is 130, but again, that does not account for vacancy.
Okay, so you're saying 130 is the PGI.
By market parameters, that would be appropriate.
Okay. So we're gonna have a lot of time to look at your capital study. One thing I did notice is that you look at the properties used here, and I know a lot of what we talk about here, the board revision is in regards to like repair and maintenance. What counts as repair and maintenance, what doesn't, what's capital, et cetera. So when I'm looking at your cap rate study, I see a lot of properties, you know, just going through 405 a suite, 1,003 a suite, that's closer to typical. 750, 539, you know, 500. I'm looking at these here, and to me, they just seem a low. Would you say that these figures, you know, sub 1,000, in a lot of cases, sub 750, they're typical of what an investor would expect to have to put into a property on a yearly basis?
You're asking about the repair and maintenance on a per
On the
suite
cap,
basis?
on the cap rate properties. Is this an indication of what most individual properties that come to the board here, you know, you're seeing 600 a suite, 700 a suite, is that typical?
I think that would be low. This one is subject to $716 per suite.
Yeah. I'm talking about the cap rate
I
sales.
understand. So you're asking against the entire market of
Is that
apartments?
typical? Like, these properties, is it an accurate representation of what a private for-profit owner would expect to
Yes.
spend on a per-suite basis?
Yes. It might be a little bit low, but it's certainly within the band of acceptable variation. to be
Okay,
certain.
so we'd expect to see R&Ms around that range?
Potentially higher. Again, it depends on the vintage of the asset, depends on the location,
Mhm.
depends on the turnover. There are a number of elements at play.
Okay. Okay. Do you know the extent of the renovations that they did?
They initially had 12 one-bedroom suites, and what they did was they added 3 two-bedrooms. They did some redemising to reconfigure the space.
And in terms of like the quality of the renovations, did they redo the kitchens, bathrooms?
The suites are done to an average market standard for an asset of this class.
Those are my questions, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Diamond?
So the renovations that they undertook, they were aware that those were potential renovations available when they bought the building?
I'm sorry, there were,
The renovations that took place,
right,
they were obviously aware of the fact that they had capacity to make those renovations before they bought the property?
well, the renovations were done prior to the sale.
Oh, they were?
This owner's purchased in 14.
Yes?
The rentals were done in 11 and 12.
Okay.
So I believe that the rentals were done to bring the
Okay,
property
and you say
forward.
that they took the actual income from the property when they bought it, and they capped it at just over 6%?
That's correct.
And that's how they arrived at that purchase price?
That's reflecting the purchase price.
And you're actually asking now for us to use a lesser amount of NOI and at the same cap rate pretty well, and determine a lower value at this point from what they paid for it.
Yes.
Okay. No further questions, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchins?
Yes, thank you. I'm referring here to your page 7, your summary of
Yep.
this workup. The year built, 1960.
That's a typo, it should be 68.
68, okay. Have you inspected this property?
I've done an exterior
Okay.
walk around, yeah.
In your opinion, does that reflect the current condition? You think there's an age variant warranted, considering the upgrades?
Well, there is, it's been variant age, it's been adjusted to 78, I think that's appropriate.
It's
By the
adjusted
city.
to 78?
The city has adjusted the effective year built to 1978.
Okay, so it's actually 78, effective year built. Looking down, I'm gonna go through the vacancy rate. Are you using 1.5%?
We are using the actual financials, so we've not applied a vacancy rate. That's for the RVA, that's the the market parameter that they would have used in 14 to come to the purchase price. So
But for your workup, you're using 1.5%?
for my workup, I'm using actuals from 16 and 17.
Okay, so what is the 1.5%?
That is the column that shows the appraisal value, and that's a market parameter that they apply to the potential gross income.
Okay, so in your workup, in your work,
Yes.
you're using 1.5% in your calculation.
No, I'm using actual stabilized.
Okay, so what is your vacancy allowance that you're using in your workup to come out with an NOI of 61,567?
Okay, well, so we're using an EGI of 106,000. I'd have to do the calculation, but the vacancy is high, it's substantially higher than 1.5%. But we are
Okay, I'd
using.
like to know what it is, please.
Okay, well.
The city uses 2%, I believe, and I'd like to know what yours is in your workup. The
Okay.
city's using 2.6, we haven't heard that evidence yet, but,
Right. Again, I'd have to do that calculation.
okay, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. That is 18.4%.
18.4, okay. And so that would be the actual, would that be a stabilization over the last 3 years, 2016?
2 years, 16 and 17.
16 and 17, okay.
But we've used actually, the way that we've stabilized it is we've used 106,000.
Yes.
Because the income is going down, that is typical. Now, that's the new normal for this.
Okay, that's my next question. Line number 8, the effective gross rent.
Correct.
We've got 128,000, I'm gonna approximate here.
Sure.
120,000 and 106,000.
Right.
And the average is about 118, and you've chosen to take the lowest amount.
Not the lowest round, most typical year.
So you used 106, even though the average comes in at about 119,000.
Correct, because the
Okay.
16 income is skewing that average, yeah.
Okay. Again, the line 13 EGI, effective gross income.
Yeah.
Again, you've chosen the lowest one out of the 3 years.
No, not chosen the lowest one, that's a summation of 8, 9, and 12. That's a sum. That's the EGI plus the laundry income, which is actually the highest of the years that we have captured, and then the miscellaneous income, which is actually fairly high as well. There's some distortion there that happens in 17.
I guess my question is, when you're stabilizing
Yeah.
the income, do you always go to the, rather than going with an average or maybe adjusting that average, in this point it's 116,400 approximately, do you always go to the lowest
No, certainly
number?
not, no. We
Okay.
would use the most typical.
Or you're choosing the lowest?
I'm choosing, I'm sorry, in terms of the
Line
EGI.
13, yeah.
No, 13 is.
You've done it both on line 8 and line 13.
Right.
You've chosen the lowest.
No, line 13 is a sum of of the EGI plus the laundry income plus the
Okay,
miscellaneous income.
so choosing the lowest in number 8 has resulted in the lowest number in line 13. And when you look at the average
Well, it's lower than it, yeah, it's, I mean, that's an input in the,
Okay,
in the calculation, so if it were higher, then the total would be higher, certainly.
okay, now regarding the sale in 2014.
Yes.
Was that an arm's length sale on the open, on MLS? or-
Yes, yes, it was.
Okay.
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
And any knowledge of how much was spent on permits prior to the sale?
No, I do not have that information.
Okay, any knowledge of any improvements after the sale?
No, none that we're aware of.
Okay. And the cap rate, 6%, could you tell me how you came up with a cap rate of 6% on a 1978 building?
Absolutely. So we conducted a 2020 cap rate study for apartments. And as I mentioned, Mighton was actually one of the properties that we looked at in developing our cap rate. So if we look at our cap rate summary on page 1 of our study, you see that for improvements built between 1960 and 1974, the city's using a cap rate of 4.6 to 5.3. That's the range, and we're using 5 3/4 to 6. There are some locational issues that would likely prohibit further development. Again, it's directly across from the cemetery, and the city recognizes that as an influence on value in their
Upwards or downwards?
I would imagine downwards. I suppose that's a
Okay.
question for the assessor, but I think that cemetery adjacency is.
Okay, so in that regard, the building is 1978, and that would fall within the, would be Altus cap rate of
Well,
5.75.
the city has a variant age of 78.
Right.
We have it built in sometime between 60 and 68, so I think that using the 60 to 74 range is probably more appropriate than using the 75 to 1997.
Okay. But you made a comment there that you're using 6% because that's what was the cap rate in the analysis in 2014 for the purchase of the property?
The cap rate was slightly higher in the analysis of the, it was 6.15, and then stabilized to 6.05. So I think that the market would approach this property with a 6% cap rate. I think that's appropriate.
Okay, my last question is why should the market value of the assessment be lower than that purchase price in 2014?
We can see how this asset has performed, and when we take the actual financials and we see the trend, and capitalize that value, it would indicate that today's market value is lower than what the purchaser paid for. That's not completely atypical, but an asset may not have performed to the level of optimism that the purchaser may have had.
Okay, last question, so they purchased it for $1.365 million.
Correct.
And you're saying it's worth $1 million?
26,000, yeah.
Maybe it's an unfair question, but do you think they would sell it for $1 million?
I couldn't say that, but
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay, no other questions, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Bob. The picture on page 1,
Yeah,
is that facing Mighton Street?
that's the front entrance.
Front entrance, there's no windows on the front of that
No
building?
windows. We tried, it's actually, it's an interesting building. It's got a bit of a different kind of roof on it. It's also in line with a string of churches and other places of worship, so I I wonder if perhaps at some point it might have been an asset that belonged to one of the religious organizations that is down there. It certainly has that look. It's not a typical looking apartment building by any means.
So it wasn't constructed as an apartment building?
Well,
Is
I'm
that
not
what you
sure, I
said?
can't say for certain, but I
Okay.
would be led to believe that.
Because you made the statement when we were talking about vacancy or something, you said this type of building. What did you mean by this type? Something special about this building or just any apartment building?
When I said the vacancy in this type of building,
Uh,
perhaps this class, this vintage,
Yeah,
this
okay.
area.
Nothing special about this sort of building?
No.
That's all my questions. We can now hear from the assessor, please.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, go ahead.
If we use the NOI calculated for your stabilized, for example, as an example of how you're saying it's operating now, against the 2014 sale price, do you know what the cap rate would be?
I'm sorry, if we use.
If you took 61,567 for your net operating income, this is like a thought experiment, and you applied that on top of the sale price, 1,365.
Right.
Do you know what the calculated cap rate would be?
No, not off the
It would
top
be
of my head.
4.5.
It would be 4.5?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're sort of mixing
Okay, well,
non-like
that's,
things here, but
that's nice for information, but you can present your case, please.
14091124000155 Mighton. 1968 effective year built, 1978, got 12 outdoor parking spots, 12 suites, 9 1-bedroom, 3 2-bedroom, masonry walls. Property was renovated prior to the sale. I've got an ad in regards to scope of the renovations. So let me locate this quickly. So, in terms of the building, concrete block with brick exterior, 3-story walk-up, attic space between floors to reduce noise. Recent installation upgrades to reduce energy costs, stainless steel fridge, dishwasher, stainless steel Amana, stainless steel self-cleaning range, extra large bathroom, vanity and countertop, kitchens extended to add more cabinets. So I didn't include the pictures because I found this after the submission date, so I'll just have to verbally. It looks like the countertops are just vinyl, they're not granite or anything, so it's not luxury. But it looks like the countertops and cabinets have been redone. Flooring looks to be a mix of vinyl and carpet, looks new. White painted baseboards, looks like the tub surround in the tub has been done as well.
This information is not in your brief that you're giving us?
No, unfortunately, I found the pictures after, so I can just verbally tell you what they're
Okay.
advertising the place as. This is an ad listed December 21st, 2011. So it was renovated around that time. According to notes at the time, I got a note in regards to sales listing in December 2013 Real Estate News. It says 12 1-bedroom apartment blocks, so I suppose it's been redemised since the time of 2013, which has completed a 5-year rent exemption through RTB. So it's had a significant amount of renovations, enough where they have gotten exemption from the rent, according to my notes here. So the property's like, it's not just basically done, it's got a lot of work done. It's not held back by rent control anymore. Page 2, property sold again, 1,365,000, beginning of March 2014. It's on the open market. So our model calculated a 1,531,000, based on our parameters. Average monthly rent $888.25, using a market vacancy rate. Expense ratio model generated to come up with a net operating income of 71,971 with a 4.7 capitalization rate as determined by the model. Page 4, rent comparables. Rent comparables are in the area. Effective year builds. Bracket the subject. 3 out of the 4 are masonry bearing walls. They're a combination. Aside from page 2, each of them is a combination. 2 and 4 don't, rather, okay, 2 has bachelors, 4 doesn't have 2 bedrooms. But they're a combination of all the different bedroom types, these 4 comps. Gross floor areas, bracket the subject property, and rents, average monthly rents due as well, they're from 2017. Page 5, capitalization rates, determined by the model. As per the area and its effective year built and size, it gets a 4.7 cap rate as determined by the information sales we've collected through the city and calculated through the model. Page 7, that's the extension letter request for the non-compliance, we can look past that. Page 10, I forgot to blank out the tenants' names, please don't look at them. It shows the rent amount for October 2017, submitted to the department via a request on page 9, correspondence between a member of our department and the owner. So they sent the rent roll in. Without knowing what the rents are, I had this piece of information to determine whether it was too high or not. So page 10, I did the last page of brief, I did basically I just summed up what the potential was and put out an average rent of $915.58. So we're at $888.915. I don't have any expenses, didn't look like there was a reason to change it, that's my evidence.
Thank you. Mr. Story, questions of the
Yes.
assessor?
Okay, first of all, you mentioned some document that you got from 2011 that made reference to fridges and other appliances. Now, would you say that those are accessible items?
No,
Those are chattels, they're not fixtures, correct?
that's correct.
Okay, so we can't base the value on the type of fridge that we have. I guess, first of all, have you visited the property?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay. Have you visited 429 Henderson Highway?
I haven't visited any of the rental comps.
Okay. But and they were generated by your mass appraisal model?
That is correct.
You haven't visited them, they were generated by the model, but you believe that they're comparable to our subject?
As per the parameters in the chart, they're comparable.
The parameters, okay. So you don't know which is the best comp, or?
No, I couldn't. If I had time to inspect them, I would be able to.
Right, okay. Let's turn to page 5. Is the assessment department's cap rate study available for taxpayers to view?
No, it's not.
Can you tell us how many sales were used to develop your cap rate study?
I'm not involved in the modeling process or developing the cap rates.
So you can't give us a median age of the properties that were entered into the study?
No, but they are broken up. The cap rate applied depends on the area of the city, how large it is, and the effective year built. So it is taken into consideration.
And do you know the ratio of high rises versus low rises that were entered into the study to develop this
No,
table?
unfortunately, I do not.
Okay, does the cap rate study calculate cap rates by including closing costs?
No,
No?
no.
You're certain of this?
As far as I know, no.
Okay, and how about legal fees?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so am I now correct in assuming that this table on page 5 is all the assessment department is willing to produce with regards to cap rates?
Willing to produce. I don't have a say in what willing to produce is.
Is this all that the assessment department is going to provide the taxpayer with in terms of explanation of how their property's valued based on these capitalization rates? Is this all we're going to
The
say?
paper, yeah, that's what we have on our brief.
Okay. Now, let's go to your page 10. So you've done a little work up here, but you haven't made any adjustments for vacancy, no site-specific adjustments for anything. We've just taken monthly rent that you've taken off of an email, you've summed them and multiplied by 12, is that?
Yeah, that's a calculation of potential gross income based on the information that was provided to me.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Hyman?
Yeah, I guess I have two questions. First, Mr. Story asked you a question about things like fridges not being accessible, which I think you agreed with.
Yeah,
But would nicer fridges and appliances lead to a higher rental in a property? Because we're looking at income here, not,
if I was to walk into a building and there was two identical suites and one had upgraded and one had not upgraded, I'd go for the upgraded one. And that would probably, well, not probably, it could ask for more money, but I can't say for certain.
okay. Now the cap rate.
Mhm.
The city's applied, was it 4.7 cap rate on this property?
That's correct.
Do you think that might be a little aggressive for the property the way it is? I know that, I'm not suggesting that a 6% cap rate that is being asked for is reasonable either, but do you think the 4.5 might be a little bit aggressive?
Based on all the mailers and sales that were looked at in our model, that's what was determined based on age and area. I mean, it's all redone.
Yeah.
And if we're looking at accuracy of cap rate as an extension of actual market value of the property sold for 1,365, it's gone up 200,000 in 4 years. It would seem to me, based on the value that you're using that cap rate, I think the value is reasonable.
Well, the applicant is indicating that it's not performing as expected when they bought it, which,
And that's news to me today. I wish I had more information in regards to why.
sure, if they did have the vacancy factor approaching what the applicant is indicating, would that not lend a purchaser to be looking for a higher cap rate than the city's applying? In other words, if they know that it's gonna have a 19% vacancy factor,
In perpetuity?
well, you don't know. We can only tell what it's
Yeah.
performed up to now, but,
Yeah, in
you know,
perpetuity, yeah. That was bad.
if circumstances change, obviously, that time
Of
the
course.
assessment will go up, obviously, but.
Yeah, I'd like to know more about why there's such vacancy with the property, but, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Briggs. Any questions?
Mr. Hutchins?
Yes, thank you. Matthew, 2014 sale, any permit value assigned to that
I couldn't
improvement?
find any permit
Okay,
stuff.
Too old. Any newer permits taken out?
Not as far as I know.
Okay. Okay, the appellant has presented about an 18% vacancy rate.
Mhm.
Obviously, with the non-cooperation of the property owner, there's no way of confirming that, I guess.
Well, what I got was a rent roll from October 2017. Now,
On
not on page 10, not for nothing, please don't look at the names, but there are all names there in each of the suites, so to me, that's indicated that they're rented out. I don't know why, perhaps there's more work being done, but I'm kinda in the dark on that.
Yeah. Without any income and expense statement, it's difficult to determine. But regarding that page, I guess page 10 is a summary of that 2017.
Yeah,
rent
basically,
roll.
this is a calculation, everybody, see?
Okay. And the average came in at about $916, and for your workup, you're using $888, okay. And, I'm gonna ask you, the appellant asked you about what information you provided in the way of a cap rate study. Would you know, no, I'll put it this way. I think you're aware that the presentation of this information has been challenged at court as being not enough information. Are you aware of that?
No, I'm not.
Okay. But it was taken to court by, I'm not sure which agent or agents, saying that they wanted a complete cap rate study and analysis
Mm-hmm.
provided in public.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs.
Believe that's
Stark?
true.
Yeah, and the decision was that this was adequate.
That I'm not sure of. I know that it's been challenged. I know that there's a.
It was the court, I believe, I'm sure they ruled that it was not to be made public, that this is the information
That
required.
was for which?
The cap rate study.
No, for which assessment cycle? Was that the last?
I think it set a precedent for.
Oh, it did? Okay, I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah,
The decision
okay.
was, I know that it's been challenged, and I know that there's, that it does seem reasonably thin for the taxpayer to, there's not a lot of information there, so it's hard to analyze.
Okay. Yeah, okay. What's that? Yeah, okay, so, I just thought I'd bring that up. Okay. That is all my questions, thank you.
I have a question, kind of follows on Mr. Diamond's question about the aggressive cap rate. Here's a building that we see from the picture, has a whole wall without windows on it. It most likely was not designed as an apartment building. Do you think those things would have an effect on the cap rate?
Oh, like in terms of the attractiveness of the exterior?
Yeah, and I mean, it's a building it's been reworked to turn out like an apartment building, but it wasn't really designed for that use.
It would depend on the income that was generated, that's how investors look at it. I mean, if a place with less windows performs better than a place with more windows, it's kind of a better cap rate.
Okay. And the information that was provided to you on page 10, that wasn't enough to satisfy the mailer request, or did it come? Because it has the income on it.
No expenses, I can't come up with a value just based on income.
Okay, that's all my questions. Any need for summation from Mr. Story?
I'm good.
You're good?
I know.
Okay, thank you very much. That concludes this property. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for your time, appreciate it. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you.
The next property on the docket is 1311 Main Street. Mr. Cookier?
Mr. Chairman, the applicant on this matter is known to me, he's actually a friend and ex-colleague.
Yes?
So I have to stand down on this matter,
Very good.
okay?
Okay, thank you.
So I'll leave and call me now.
Okay.
What do we got here? 1511 Main Street?
Yes.
Please state your full name. And you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth and help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. I don't think about any evidence from you.
Well, if it wasn't submitted.
Okay.
Mr. Lucas, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thirteen 11 Main Street, 14041724000. April 1st, 2018 value, 591,000. Effective year built 1956, 12 suites, 1 outdoor parking spot, masonry brown walls. Property's been compliant, always handed in the mailers. We've got $500 on the average monthly rent per unit on this property, which appears to be lower than what's declared on the 2017 mailer. Expenses are model, as is the cap rate, so we have a $30,160 net operating income, cap rate of 5.1 for an estimated market value of 591. Page 4, rental columns. So we're at 500. It's bracketed by properties in the area in terms of effective year built rents. Suite breakdown as well. You got 1 and 2 bedrooms. Columns 2 and 4 have bachelor units as well. So page 5 is our cap charts. Page 7 is the 2017 mailer. So it says 64,930 on total income received. And if you go to page 9, or rather page, the following page, it shows that they have over $20,000 of bad debt and vacancy. So that's why when you're looking at our income, we're at 72,000, they're collecting 64, but their gross potential on page 11 is 86. So we're a good amount below their gross potential. However, it seems like for 2017, they had a lot of vacancy and bad debt. Interesting to know, it looks like there are month-to-month rents on this property. In regards to the vacancy, I'm sure the appellant can speak more to that. But parameter-wise on the rent, we're low. Like if we were to use just, so essentially, I don't know what's going on, why it's vacant in that time, if it's being renovated, not having any permits or anything, it's quite a lot of vacancy, given that their subject potential gross income is 86,843, and our gross potential rent is about 14,000 less at 72. We're already far below what we're saying they're collecting. So there's about a $5,000 difference in net operating income. Without any information or evidence submitted, I couldn't take a look in regards to what the applicant would potentially speak to, so I didn't make a change in regards to that. So model parameters were used, that's my evidence.
Thank you. Any questions of the evidence that the assessor has presented?
Yes, sir. Just generally speaking, how you derive at these, what I'm concerned about is why the assessment went up so much from the last cycle to this cycle, sir. So my question, for the most part there, and I might point out, I'm the legal representative of the estate that owns the property, right? And I myself look after the property, at least for the time being, all right? Now, with respect to the mechanics of the assessment process, you send out mailers
Correct.
every year.
Correct.
you get those mailers back in, that information that you get from me, right? Then put into the computer,
That is correct.
and it goes into some sort of a database,
Yep.
and the computer spits out the assessment.
Basically, expense ratios and rents are calculated and applied to properties of various ages, locations, sizes, whether it's had renovations or not. And based on the data we have on the property, your property being mid-1950s, we don't have any renovations applied to it or anything like that.
So major renovation, yeah.
So we don't have any premium, we haven't boosted your rent. Not in terms of being at a 1955, not like the last property that was all fixed up. And then the model looks and sees what the typical expense ratio for this type of property without renovations in this area of this age is. And then the net operating income is calculated that way.
All right, and do you factor in things like, aside from with the mailers for the most part indicate what the rents are, right?
Yeah.
Their income and expense sheet, right?
Yeah.
In addition to that, you take into consideration whether there's any major renovations, capital expenses, capital improvements like the age of the roof, right? Age of the windows.
We don't have the model refined for all the properties in the city down to that level. However, if, for instance, the last property, completely renovated, we see that it sells, it's renovated, or permits are taken out, we then take that information and then we adjust the quality of it, quality of the property to, given the fact that work has been done going forward, yearly expenses will be less for a while until it tapers off. And they're able to ask for a higher rent in a renovated place. Now, it also goes the other way, where if we got information where you have foundation issues, that's something that's gonna affect the value of your property, obviously, when it comes time to sell. So what we'll do is we'll lower the quality of your property in our system, which will dial back the rent you could ask, up the expenses, and bring your assessment down.
Okay. These assessments are not site-specific, is that correct, sir? Nobody goes out there and checks the property out?
We don't go just by what the mailers submit. We go by what market value is, not the site-specific mailers.
So if they're old windows dating back to when the building was first put up, is that factored in?
If we don't apply any sort of, effective age to it, to reflect the renovation, then we assume that basic maintenance has been taken. However, if it's brought to our department that there's issues with the property,
Yes.
then we can look into that, and in tandem with looking at the income and expenses, the homeowner submits, rather property owner submits on a yearly basis, we can adjust it if it's warranted.
Well, wasn't even aware of that, sir, okay. I thought you didn't go out there and, okay, now, so as it's not site-specific, you didn't do an examination of the property in the previous cycle, the cycle commencing, let's see, this, 218?
No, I wasn't involved with this one.
Okay, and I guess you didn't do a specific site assessment with respect to the most current cycle, the 220?
No.
All right. So, now, in the previous cycle, sir, the property was assessed at $500,000.
The Board of Revision cut it to $500,000.
All right. Now, this most current cycle, right, coming up for commencing 220, right? Right?
Yes.
The property assessed value has jumped to 591. So, based upon my calculations, I was looking at it, it's gone up approximately 19%.
That was, dropping it from 549 to 500,000 is not something, at the last cycle, it was 549 initially.
Yes?
Then someone came here, Board of Revision, they dropped it to 500,000. That's not something that the city did, but the Board of Revision did. We don't always agree with the Board of Revision's decision.
Yeah. So the board, and in other words, when a new cycle comes up, you just start from scratch. You don't take into consideration what the assessed value is pursuant to an order, either the Board of Revision or the municipal board.
Well, if there's information that's revealed at the Board of Revision to us that warrants, for instance, a reduction in the quality we have, that would
Yeah.
bring down the bump you would get, that's something that would be applied to your property.
Yes, that's what I'm here for, trying to determine what prompted the city of Winnipeg to reassess the property, to increase it to an additional $91,000.
It was just done by the model.
The model.
Yeah.
All right, and of course, assessment's not site-specific, right?
No,
Use the computer
it's
generated.
market value, yeah.
Those are my questions, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchings, any questions of the assessment?
Yes, thank you. Could I ask what the location is on Main Street, Cross Street?
Oh,
1311.
what's the cross stream?
It's do you know where the old College Theater is? There's it used to be a Jehovah's Witness temple.
What street is the Cross Street, on Main Street?
Oh, it's between McRae and Church.
Okay, McRae, okay.
You know where the MPI building is?
Yes.
Across the
Right on,
street there.
Okay, gotcha, okay. So by St. John's Park.
It's a little bit, it's north of St. John's Park. Where the, used to be a Jehovah's Witness temple there for many years. Now it's some other form of church.
Okay,
Right.
you're on the west side or the east side of Main Street?
It's on the riverside, so
Riverside.
the east side of Main Street.
Okay, got you there. So is it white stucco?
No, it's brick.
Brick, okay. So east side, okay. Now, I'm just curious, did you bring anything, any information for us?
No, I just, my
Sorry.
evidence is, sir,
Yeah,
is
okay.
that every year I send in the mailers.
Sorry, I just thought maybe
Okay.
we didn't have it, but
No,
we're still dealing with the assessor, but I
Yeah,
just,
okay,
I was just
sure.
wondering.
Very good.
Okay. Okay. Just bear with me 1 second, Rob.
Yeah. Take your time.
Mr. Baracus, any idea or any history of an inspection on this property that you've got documented there?
No physical inspection.
On record?
Not, no, not for the notes going back.
Okay. So the value is based on the model,
It was-
evaluating the curve.
It was model generated,
Characteristics.
we have the income quality dialed all the way down,
Oh, okay.
so we have it at the lowest level.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because there's no evidence of any recent renovations, so.
No, we're not saying this is a renovated property at all.
Yeah, no, yeah. And somebody determined that it should be at, what would that be called, low quality, or how would
Well, I
you?
don't,
Below average, how's that?
below average.
Okay, all right, that's reflected. If that wasn't in there, the assessment would be higher, right?
Yeah, we're trying to adjust them.
Be fair. Okay. That is it, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have a question on the parking. It shows one outdoor parking stall.
Yeah.
I assume there's no indoor parking, so would that, I guess you said you had the quality dialed down, so
Yeah.
part of the dialing down is due to limited parking? Does that come into play there?
It was,
I can respond to that situation.
well, we get the income and expenses, and we see the income we're getting in regards to what the model's putting out, and, you know,
Parking
every
would have an
reassessment,
effect
if
on
it
the
looks like it's coming in, we put it down lower or put it when we,
Okay. And we don't have any pictures, so this is a, this says two-story building, brick type,
2.5, sir.
2.5 story, okay. I will, that's all my questions
Oh, yeah.
for you. And if you have any information.
Yeah,
you'd like to
I
present.
want to tell you, it's an older building, right?
Okay,
The quality of the tenants is not great. Most of them are social assistants, and those who are not, they have trouble collecting rent from, right? So, the property income statement questionnaire that I filled out for 218, or, no, 217, I didn't even take a management fee on it. Right? I said, I have done subsequent to that. But if you'll note from the income and expense statement, there's no management fee. I'm looking after myself at the time being, right? And my purpose in coming here today was, more than anything else, was to find out how the property within one cycle jumped between 18 and 19%.
did the assessor explain it properly to you?
Well, I can appreciate that there was, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going back now, there was a board order reducing the value of the property then, right? But it's gone right up again, and every year I have to fight with it, fight over that very issue.
Okay. Very good.
With respect to the parking, I might point out, there's a bin in the back. And that takes up at least 1.5 parking spaces. So there's 1 and sometimes 2 parking spaces available, which is mostly just included in the rent. Most of the people who live in there can't afford or operate a motor vehicle.
Okay. That's your information.
That's my evidence, yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions, Mr. Barakis, on the information that Mr. Middlefoot here has it?
So, from what I understand, the main issue is that you have like a chronic vacancy, or not?
Yes, there is.
Bad debt.
You know why?
Bad
Because
debt?
I'll tell you why there is a chronic vacancy, is because many of the tenants that make applications, I reject them, right? Simply because I don't want the headaches and the trouble.
Okay.
Because in many instances, it's not so much not paying the rent, they like to party, et cetera, et cetera.
So this level of vacancy you have, would this be typical? As indicated in 2000, on a site-specific basis, would this, you typically have about this amount of vacancy?
Yeah,
At
there's
about
gonna be-
20,000?
Yeah, right now there is.
Okay, well,
Because I'm very fussy as to who I allow in, right? In the homes. Right now, we're in the process of kicking somebody else out, right?
okay. And you haven't done any renovations or anything?
Well, there is renovations. Every time a tenant moves out, we redecorate it in the sense that we repaint the place.
Okay, but nothing like actual, just
Like
keeping
kitchen
maintenance?
counters and of that nature, no.
Yeah, okay. All right, those are my questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchins, any questions?
Yes, thank you. Okay, sir, vacancy / bad debt, is there, I'm looking at the roll, it looks like it's full. I'm looking at the roll that you submitted on the income and expense.
Oh,
It looks like the apartment is full. So what is the vacancy?
At this point,
Yeah,
I'll tell you right now, sir, looking at the
On
the
average.
rent roll, it's about, running at about a quarter vacancy, 25% vacancy. Let me just point something out. Look at of the 12 tenants here, 9 of them are gone. No people in there.
so there's new people come in.
Coming in only, it's like a hotel.
Okay, so you're saying it's around 25%
Yes,
on average?
yeah.
20% would be
Right
maybe.
now, I've got one.
Well,
two,
no, but on
three.
average.
About 25%.
Okay. Okay, looking on your income and expense statement on the assessor's brief, page 7, they're showing maintenance and repairs about $12,000. That's for the redecorating when people move in and out, hydro.
Well, you know, there are other things, you know, it's not only when you say, but, you know, there are other expenses. For example, I have an on-site man, he's not really a caretaker, but He's my contact person, and I pay him a certain amount to wash the floors every
Yeah.
week, sweep and wash the floors. And when the tenant moves out, he goes in and repaints the place.
Okay, so you're disagreeing with the value the assessor's putting on this of
91.
591,000. Okay, normally the way we do this, or the way this process works, is that an appellant will come in with a workup sheet with these numbers filled in to prove a different value. And you haven't told us, you haven't presented anything to us, so I'm asking you, what do you think the value, the assessment should be?
Unfortunately, sir, I'm not an accredited appraiser of the
No.
appraisal to Canada.
No, but
Right,
you're-
but I'm looking at about 550, 540.
Okay. So you're asking for what the assessment was last time before the Board of Revision reduced it to 5.
That's correct, basically.
Basically, yeah, okay, okay. All right. Yeah, okay. That's all my questions, thank you.
Thank you. I have no questions. Do you have need for summation? No? Anything more you'd like to add? Thank you for coming, and you'll hear from this board shortly.
Thank you, John. Are they still sending the orders out by registered mail? All right, I'm still checking the all that once.
Do you need a new address? We have Arrowwood.
Yeah, at least they moved out of there.
They just went out of town.
And we will take a short 5-minute break now. And 1477 Notre Dame?
I have a rec on that one, he's not coming.
Okay, well, we'll deal with that one later.
We can do it at the end.
1625 Notre Dame?
You have the option to swear on the Bible or to affirm without it. Okay, please state your full name. And you affirm the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. I don't believe we got evidence from you.
No.
Do you have anything to share with the panel today?
No.
Okay, that's okay.
Matthew? Baracus?
Roll number 1306223100, 1625 Notre Dame Avenue. April 1st, 2018, value 527. For roll year 2020, built in 55, no effective year on it. 6 outdoor parking spots, 6 weeks. Got a non-co-op, burden of proof on the applicant requested. You go to page 2, you'll see that this property's been non-compliant since 2013. That's been to the board before, where non-compliance has been granted. If you go to page 7, shows the registered mail being sent out to the homeowner. The property owner knows that they gotta submit mailers, we've talked about this before. They haven't been doing it.
Okay, thank you.
Last year, when we had a hearing, after the hearing, I called 311 and I asked if they can send me those papers which are sending in the fall time, because because of the family problem, I am not in the April here, like from the Christmas to April. And they said me that they're going to contact you, but nobody give me any response in this matter. Because I am not here, I can't comply with your requirements. And I wanted to submit everything in the fall time, like right now, November, December, I can submit you.
Okay. Questions, Mr. Dan?
So you indicated that you know that you have to file these information slips every year. with the
Yes,
city.
but
Okay.
because I am not able to.
No, I just asked the question, yeah, I
Yeah.
heard that already, that you're not here.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Just answer my questions, please. All right. The second question I have is, so you knew you had to file it, why didn't you go to the city and get it then, if you knew you were gonna be here in April?
Could you repeat?
So, yeah, you knew you were gonna be here at the time the city sends them out, because you say you're out of Winnipeg
Yes,
from Christmas till April.
yes.
So why didn't you go to the city and ask them to give it to you so you could file it then? You knew it had to be filed.
I called them if I can do this. Nobody gave me call back.
Well, you still knew it had to be filed, so you should have, didn't you, do you think you took reasonable steps to make sure you complied with what you were supposed to do?
You know, I don't know the rules exactly, but if I'm calling them and I don't get the call back, I don't know. And the last time, they also sent me email to asking for this. They didn't send me nothing this year.
And you haven't filed anything since, was it you filed or was it the previous owner who, have you ever complied?
No, I was compliant before. When I was here, I was compliant. In 2013 or even later, I complied with all the rules. But because of the issue which I have right now,
Okay, so you knew the type of form that has to be submitted, and you had it forms from previous years, why didn't you just photocopy the previous form, white out all the areas on it, and resubmit it on that form?
you know, I didn't came to this idea, and nobody contacted me either last time when I called them.
Okay, thank you.
Bob, questions?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so the assessors provided proof that it was delivered to your home address on Jefferson Avenue. When you arrived home, was this letter waiting for you?
No, because what happened last year, I also was sick. When I came back, I went for the treatment, and I never saw, like, the letter, I guess it was going back to them.
Okay, so, Mr. Barakis, this is due in June 8th, is that right?
End of June.
End of June, okay, so, and you've come home at the end of April, shall we say? So May and June.
But the last
May
year
of
I
June,
was-
you have the opportunity to submit it.
But the last year I wasn't in June too. I basically came only for the hearing.
So,
This year I was waiting for them to something to send. me.
well, but you know in the calendar in spring, you're gonna have to submit an income and expense statement. Sounds like you've got a history here of appearing before the board and probably possibly dealing with this non-cooperation issue every time you appear, so,
Therefore, I wanted to cooperate, and I gave them a call after last hearing, if I can submit everything in the fall time, and I haven't.
well, you can't. That's not their process. It's expected in the spring, by June,
Therefore,
end of June.
somebody should call me and said, whatever you have a time, bring us this.
Okay, no other questions, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Does somebody look after your property when you're gone?
Well,
What?
but it's not the professional people.
Okay. Do you get your mail forwarded or something when you're away for months on end?
Not really, some people, they come after a few or 3 months and they gather everything what is in the box.
Yeah, okay. Okay, we will take a short recess during the hearing and make a decision. We'll be back shortly. Okay, I call the meeting back to order. Panel has made a decision, we will grant the non-compliance to the assessor, and therefore you will be required to lead off, give us your information first, please.
What do you mean by exactly?
If you have any information that you brought to give to us and explain the situation, now is your time.
I don't have any information.
Okay. Is there
The
any-
reason that I don't have any information, that, well, the same information, because it was hearing last year, and the same information, including this letter, was provided to me on the hearing last year on August. Now, and this capture rate, and based on this information, exactly the same information, the value of the house was calculated 445. How it came that this year is calculated 5,000?
Well, that's a question of the assessor, so if you have no information, we'll see if anybody has any questions of you. Mr. Assessor, would you like to ask her any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Questions, Mr. Diamond, any questions?
What do you think your property should be assessed at?
You see, I don't understand this issue of calculation. I try, or capitalization. I try to look on the computer. I contact 311 that I could be explained more. I try to find the computer how the value of the building increase over this period of 1 year. how this, like, it's written here that City of Winnipeg has a few methods of calculation of capitalization. It would be nice if.
Okay, you know, the question I asked you is, what do you think it should be, and you're just.
Well, that's therefore I wanted to prepare you.
I know,
Like,
but
based on last year, what I am allowed to increase only, it's what tenancy branch allowed me. The tenancy branch allowed me for this year to increase 2.2, for the next year 2.4. Therefore, I don't understand how this come this value. Now, if I take only,
Okay, right now I ask you a question, and you know
Yes.
what, you're not really answering the question, you're going into maybe an argument that you should have given us before, but let me ask you another question then. Okay, you didn't bring to us any calculations of how much rent you receive and your expenses, have you? You got that here?
no, I only
So
brought,
I wouldn't even know what to capitalize then, because you haven't given us any evidence with which to even pick a
well,
capital.
basically, you know, I agree mostly what is written here.
Okay.
Because last time we were talking about the average, the same paper was given to me last year.
Okay. Okay.
And if they have an average apartment value,
Okay, so what you're telling me, the answer is that you pretty well agree with the city's workup insofar as the income from the property.
well, not really, because the expensive is a little bit more, because I have a lot of damage, the same as this guy had, and I have a higher vacancy number. But if I agree to, the entire issue is this capitalization. I don't know how to even to approach this.
Okay, thank you, I have no further questions.
How long, Bob?
Thank you. That's okay. So what would you sell the apartment block for?
Well,
The
I think that.
The assessor's saying it's worth $527,000. If it were in the market on April 1st, 2018, what would you sell it for? We're asking for an estimated market value. You're disagreeing with the value that the assessor's placed on it, and as Mr. Diamond asked, what do you think the value is?
You gave me a very hard question because I am not a professional estate, and I was trying to find something on the market. You could, about the multi-family buildings, there is nothing on the computer. How much they increase
Well,
value.
a real estate agent could do a market
No,
evaluation.
I call the association, because whenever I read the realtors, there is the value of the market increase such much. I called them to ask from where are they taking these numbers. They sent me to Association of Professional Realtors. I called them, they said me that they are not able to help me.
Would you sell your property for $527,000?
I don't know if I would say for million if somebody will give me.
Okay, that's all, thank you.
How
But
long-
I basically don't know if somebody will give me this money based on capitalization, because I don't know how to count this.
Okay. How long have you owned the property?
I own the property from 2005.
Okay, and how much did you pay at that time?
$135,000. In 2012, I have assessor on the property, and they assess the value of the property for $157,000, 2012.
Okay. That's all my questions. Mr. Assessor, if you would like to give us your information?
1625 Notre Dame, 13062231000, assessed value 527,000, built in 1955, no effective age applied to it. 6 suites, 6 outdoor parking spots, wood or steel frame exterior walls. Maybe you should get some clarification here. It says on my income value summary that there's actually 8 suites. How many
Yes.
suites? There's 8 suites?
Yes.
Okay, so disregard what I previously said. I don't know why the auto-generated brief came up with that, but there's 8 suites.
There is written here, total units 8.
6 one-bedroom and 2 two-bedroom?
Yes,
That's correct?
yes.
Good. Property sold in 2005 for $135,000. without any information. Model was used on the property. The 420 cap rate comes up to a rounded value of 527,000. Comparables on Notre Dame were taken to see the suitability of the rent. These buildings are all similar in regards to year built, construction class, suite count composition, gross floor area per unit. Average monthly rent is bracketed. They're all on Notre Dame, not too far. Capitalization rate was assigned by size, area, and age. We don't have any effective age put on the property. So without any information to go off of, model was used.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions of what
Yes.
the assessor has presented?
Yeah, the same question as I was talking before, like, last year you presented me the same papers and you set up the house for 445. How did you calculate the capitalization? It's possible to get something on your website that I can look how you calculate this? Because it's really confused for me, like, based on the same information, 1 year is 445, another year is 527.
Well, more than just the capitalization rate. Change the income and expenses as assigned by the model would have been adjusted as well. In terms of how cap rates are generated, we get the income and expenses from all the properties across the city. We look at sales that go on, we look at their income and expenses. So the sales within the reference state are analyzed, we look at their income and expenses, and we see what capitalization rates are being calculated at, what private for-profit purchasers are buying apartments for, and what kind of cap rate is being used based on the income and expenses of said apartments.
But you said that in the capitalization, you include the income. But my income from the last year increased only 2.2%. And the value of the building increased 18%. That's what I was allowed to only increase. I can't increase more than 2.2%, yes?
Okay, so if you're held
And
under,
how is going with 18%?
so just because your income and expenses, so let's just start with income. Just because your income is held under, income, rent being able to be collected is held under rent control, doesn't mean that people, private investors aren't buying apartments for more than what the rent control percentage would be.
Yes, but we are talking about the building specific right now. It wasn't sold, it was only based on income and expenses. The expenses for the building didn't change because the hydro, the repairs, and when the guy who was talking here before, I have the same problem, yes? The people don't pay, I have people, drug dealers, the damage to the building is significant.
Is that a question? No?
No, this is the part of the question, because he didn't give me the full answer. And now,
Okay, well, let him answer the question what is the question? How did it come up with the value?
Yes, how they came, because he said me that he calculate per rent increase and expenses. The expenses didn't change from the last year. And they went up
Okay,
because
maybe-
the hydro, everything, and I still didn't get an answer based on this.
Okay.
Maybe
If you
it's my
could-
explanation.
Can you give her a quick explanation of how the value was arrived at? An overall
So
explanation?
there's difference in capitalization rate. Capitalization rate is a rate used basically as an indication of demand for the property. So if demand since April 1st, 2016 had gone down from 16 to 18, the cap rate would have been higher as shown by sales and their respective income and expenses. Then it would have gone down, given everything stays the same or goes up 1%. So even though your income and expenses perhaps maybe haven't changed that much. The demand for property has.
It's not what I found on the internet, but you said such.
Where are we?
Where are we? Questions from the panel?
Yes.
Mr. Rex, I see that you're using a 4.8% cap rate, and how did that get determined? by the model?
It's just done by age and area.
So the property is 58 built, I think, and the area is Notre Dame, so would that be,
Yeah, as per what the modelers determined.
so to get to a higher cap rate, what year would that be built in, knowing what the area is in?
Did I put that chart away?
I had it, I have it here. Here it is. Okay, so we are at a,
So a 55-year build.
and the square footage. So it's 55. So 55 from, we've got a pretty big range for properties, up to, under 8,000 square feet. In market regions, every market region except market region 4, which is the north end,
Right.
and market region 9, we've got 4.8% cap rate.
Okay, so it came right off the model.
Yeah, right off the model.
Okay, thanks.
Bob?
Thank you. Where are we located here? 1625 Notre Dame Avenue.
You should probably be able to answer that better.
But the Notre Dame is like divided between the Dublin and Kuwaitin.
Okay,
And there is the Tim Hortons on, if you go in the east direction, there is the Tim Hortons on the left side. On the right side, those are few buildings there.
okay, so we're Dublin and Notre Dame split there.
Yes,
Just around the corner, there are apartments on the right side, right on the bend there. Okay, yeah, got you there, okay, okay. Okay. Okay, that's my only question, thank you, I won't say anymore.
Okay, when was the last time this property was inspected? Do you have information on that?
I couldn't, I don't have any notes on an inspection.
I can tell you, 2012.
2012?
And it was estimated for 157,000.
That's all my questions. If you'd like to make a quick summation, you're welcome to it.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
Summarizing?
summarize, if you'd like to summarize. You don't have to, but you're welcome to.
No, it's basically, my question is that since today, if I provide all information in the full time, will be okay?
Perhaps you should call the assessment department
I
and see
did
if you
already.
can talk to them.
I didn't get the answer from
Oh.
them. I called 311, yes?
Perhaps you could, the assessor could give you a number or something and you could somehow try to work this out, but
Do you want my number? I can give you my number.
he'll give you his phone number and you
Okay.
can talk to him maybe, so this doesn't happen again.
Or put it in your calendar in May of every year to call the department and get an income and expense statement. Would be my suggestion.
You guys want to pass?
You now have a good contact there. Okay, Matthew, would you like any summation? Very good. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Includes this property, 1625 Notre Dame. Next up, we will have 394 Agnes Street.
Would you like to swear in or affirm?
I swear.
Please state your full name.
Middle name is Kaylee Laurel Gwendolyn Bogacki.
And you swear the to represent the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Roll number 1304-1111-000, 394 Agnes Street, roll year 2020, April 1, 2018, reference date assessed at $452,000, built in 63, no effective age, 6 suites, 4 outdoor parking spots, masonry garden walls. Owner's been compliant. No recent sales of the property. 6 suites, 2 are bachelor, 4 or 2 bedroom. We're using an average monthly rent of $670.98 on it. Model parameters in terms of vacancy and expenses with a 4.8 cap. Calculated to a rounded value of $452. Rents on page 4. Owner has been compliant. Page 4 shows comparable rents in the area. All of the comparables do have bachelor suites, and they do have 1 bedrooms as well. 2 of the 4 do not have 2 bedroom suites. Built around the same era, same gross floor area per unit. This average monthly rent applied by the model is bracketed by the comparables. 5 is our capitalization rate table. We use 4.8 as per age and area. So, page 9, or rather, pardon me, page 7 shows their income and expenses. So, looking at this property, it says they total income received it's $41,846. There's a small interest amount included in that way, which we wouldn't usually include, but it's inconsequent. It's pretty small. It's not worth really talking about that much. What it is, what we're talking about here. So they've got $41,846 received, and we've got $47,055. What's the difference? If we go to page 9, you'll see that of the 6 suites, we have 2 bedrooms renting in the mid-700s. We've got 4 2-bedrooms for rent. Now, the bachelor suites, there's 2 bachelor suites in the building. One of them is being rented out to a tenant. It says $398,430. And then there's another bachelor suite. Bachelor suite is owner occupied. That isn't generating any income. So the owner is residing in it. Typically for a building of this size, we don't see like a live-in caretaker. Now, there's a benefit for the owner living there. They own the property, they don't have to have property somewhere else. So if this 6 just doing a calculation, if this 6-suite unit, building, you know, you take the rent of that bachelor suite and you take 441, 256, which is what the gross potential income is, with one of the suites being occupied, and then you add 4968 to it, which is if it was being rented out normally, we get a potential gross income of 46,224, which is much closer to the gross potential rent of 48,311. Now, when we apply vacancy to it, we've got an effective gross income of 47,055. That's our model. If we look at what the owner actually collected, 41,846. So it looks like they didn't have any vacancy during this time, but typically a small amount of vacancy is applied. So it looks like if it was behaving, if the property was operated typically a small building like this, with all suites being rented out, it looks like the model is right on, just about right on in terms of net operating income. Therefore, no change was made to the property. When you're looking, our expenses are very similar. They are reporting 21,000 on expenses. We've got 25,000 on expenses. If you look at page 11, for the 2016 year, they've got 26,000 for expenses. And then page 15, or other, there's another year. They wrote 2016 on page 15. I'm assuming it's 2015. They're writing 22,000. So our expenses are pretty much in line with what, on a 3-year basis anyway, that they're reporting. Therefore, no changes were made. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions of the information that he has presented?
I didn't really understand all of it, but I do know there's a couple of errors here. Outdoor parking, it says that there's 4. That was when we purchased the building, there was 4. However, for security reasons, we had to fence the area and we lost a parking space. So there's sort of 3. Also, construction class, it says masonry bearing walls. I don't know if that's correct or not. It's a wood frame building covered with stucco. So, is my understanding. So I think wood frame buildings are worth a lot less than concrete buildings. So I don't know what masonry bearing walls.
Well, we'll ask, that's your question for the assessor then.
Yeah, I guess that's my first question.
Could you clarify the type of construction?
If it's wood frame and stucco, it's a wood frame building. That can be changed.
It's a wood frame building? Would it affect the, well, we'll leave it at that. That was my question. Any other questions?
There's many things I don't understand, but I don't know if I have any other questions of this.
Okay.
I don't have any questions, thank you.
Bob, any questions?
Yes, please. Location of the property at 3.
I must apologize. I usually have that information
Are we
ready.
between Ellis and Sargent or?
It's between Ellis and St. Matthews.
Oh, Ellis and St. Matthews, okay, thank you. Okay. In follow-up to the appellant's question, if the construction class was revised to wood frame, what effect would that have on the model calculation on the value, if any?
It wouldn't, if you look at my page 4, the rents that are in the wood frame building, the same
Okay.
vintage in the area, the same.
Okay. All right, thank you. And last question, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Matthew. You did a quick rundown. The appellant signee isn't included assigning any value to that owner-occupied suite. Would you have, you did a recalculation, would you have a ballpark NOI
Oh, ballpark NOI?
Yeah, reflecting that, including that owner-occupied suite in the market valuation.
Well, if you took 241, I mean, they're reporting 41,846. So if we got 41,256,
I think you bumped it up to 46,224
Plus
for gross
49.
potential.
68, 46,224.
Yeah,
That would be their gross potential.
right.
And they've got laundry, included the rent, small storage, a
You
little
know,
bit of parking.
maybe if we just took the difference and counted it, that would be a ballpark, maybe reduce it a little bit, but okay. And I think you said you were signed an extra 4968, yeah, okay. Would it be fair to make it around? Close to what you have?
Yeah, it's really close,
Yeah.
probably within.
I think she
$1,000
came in one calculation at about 13,500 if we added the 49. So it'll be up to 19,000, yeah, it's pretty close, okay. Would you agree with that?
What NOI?
Around 20,000, 19,500 or something?
20,000?
Yeah,
NOI.
by her if you used her calculations,
And added on.
added on that.
Value of that
missing
suite.
Yeah.
So, sorry, 46,224. Using that as the EGI?
Yeah,
And then taking her actual expenses here of 21,000
okay,
minus 21,092. 092 minus 21,092. We've got a net operating income of 25,132. But, I mean, other years, other mailers, she had higher expenses, she got 26, 23. I'm not asking for an increase.
yeah, no, so, but if we went if we estimated it about the same as the city's model,
Yeah.
at 22,000, that would be fair.
It's, yeah.
Okay, okay. All right, and that's my only questions, thank you.
Thank you. I have no questions. Do you have any information that you would like to present to us?
So, it's possible that my calculation, well, I mean, I provided my little rough draft of my evidence, based on what I could comprehend from, doing research. My understanding in the value of a house and the value of a renter property are not arrived at in the same way when it comes to market values. When I purchased my property, the realtor agent explained that a rental property's value is almost solely determined by profit margin through calculations like cap rate. I didn't understand at that time any of those calculations, but that a rental property is worth what it produces and not the way you would decide the value of a house. And so when I did my research, I found that the 1% rule was kind of the rough draft of how you find out what the resale value of a property was. That was the most basic one, and so simply by calculating the income, the gross rent per month times 100 would give you a very rough market value of a property, which would set my property at $351,000. However, that doesn't take into account any potential issues that a buyer might have if they were looking at the property. So then I looked at the cap rate calculations, and I can't recall, it seems to me that one of these you want a low number, An investor wants a low number and the other they want a high number for capping GRM, and I didn't write down unfortunately which is which.
The purchaser wants a high number, the seller wants a low number.
Okay. So I've never intended to sell the building. This was kind of a lifetime decision. But, so these things are kind of new to me, but if I used that 1% rule and valued the building at $351,000, I ended up with a 3.6 cap rate. And unfortunately, I believe when I used my numbers, I didn't include the fact that I was living on the property in a bachelor suite, but I was living on the property. And so therefore I should have included the value of that suite as well. I don't think I did that, so my numbers will be a little bit off. However, I was living in a bachelor suite, so that's 1/10 of the property. So the numbers that I came to is, if the building was valued at $351,000, I would have a 3.6 cap rate. If it was valued at $452,000, I would have a 2.8% cap rate. If it was valued at $319,000, I guess I figured out that 4% was within an ideal range or a reasonable range, and so I came to $319,000 using a cap rate as a fair assessment. Using the GRM, at $351,000, I would get 8.33%. Using the city's $452,000, I would get 10.73%. And using, I think 4 to 7 was what they suggested was good. So that would say $290,000 would give me 6.89%. Those are April 2018 numbers, the 1% rule, I used the April 2018 number. For the cap rates and the GRMs, I calculated them based on December 31st, 2018, because I would overcomplicate my calculations beyond my ability to work out. So since my property should be assessed by what it was worth on April 1st, 2018, I can't see how the building could possibly sell for $452,000, especially since it has drawbacks, like it doesn't have enough parking for the number of 2-bedroom suites, high crime issues, rents are, laundry is included in rent, and the rents are set way too low, and that affects the value of a rental property, and you can't correct that. Provincial rules prevent you from fixing that in 1 year.
Yes.
When I spoke to a different assessor, Cameron, and I know there's certain things from that conversation that were, I forget the term, but I can't use in this, but that.
Kind of hearsay evidence, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And now I forget what I was gonna say about that, but I don't see the building with the drawbacks selling. I would love it if it was worth that much money, but I just don't think it was. I don't think that's realistic.
Okay, thank you. See if we have questions. Mr. Barakis, do you have any questions?
Has there been any renovations to the property?
There's been some, and those will all be reflected in the yearly information that I provide,
Oh, okay.
the value of any.
So like kitchens and stuff, or?
No, I don't, all the major renovations were done all at once in 2006. I think we purchased in 2004. It was renovated through RAP. So because the building was a monstrosity when we purchased it, that's why it was so cheap. And so major renovations in 2006. Since then, I've attempted to maintain it as much as I can. Learning curve, a lot of problems with tenants damaging things. But as you'll see, I don't think either of us have provided the history of the amount of money I've spent every year. But I'm doing my best with the amount of money I have to make it a better place than it was last year. So gradually, learning how to do things myself as much as possible, because, which I didn't have any of those skills to start with. But.
Yeah, that's my question.
So you did a RAP grant in 2006,
Yes,
and that was repayable over 15 years, I would assume?
yes.
So it comes to you in 2021? You think we're
No,
years with that?
I know, maybe it was 10 years? I think it was 10
Oh,
years.
10 years? How much was the RAP grant?
It was similar to the value of the building. Well, including the part we put in, I think it was similar to the value of the building. I think it could
Okay,
have.
so basically doubled the value of the building with the renovations you made at that time, basically, insofar
It
as
doubled
cost.
the amount of money that went into the building.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. And it's over now, but for a while, I guess it suppressed the amount of rents you could charge, and
Yes, it
you're no
was
longer,
very controlling.
and you're no longer controlled by that.
No, I believe that ended in 2018.
Okay.
Approximately. So I now can apply through residential tenancies for
Right.
above guideline rent increases, which I've done.
So technically, though, in 2006, you had basically, if you doubled it, about $270,000 into the building at that time.
I didn't understand your question.
So technically, with the RAP grant and the monies you put in, as of 2006, when you did those renovations, you had an investment into the property of $270,000 or something like that.
Something in that range.
Okay.
I mean, we ended up having to put more money in,
Okay.
which probably doesn't help my case, but we ended up having to put more money in than the amount that I was allowed, that was budgeted, and we had to take out a
Okay, well, thank you, that's my question, you answered, thank you.
Bob?
Yes, thank you. My first question, I'm gonna call it page 2, is your workup evaluation.
Okay.
I think you stated that this didn't include the suite that you occupied, is that right?
It probably didn't, but I'm going on memory. I haven't had the opportunity to relook at my numbers. But I think I went,
I did a calculation, I don't believe it does
Okay.
include, so
Thank you.
with that fact, would you revise your estimated value since this is missing
yes,
an
if
income of
that,
$4,700 a year?
pardon, could you repeat that?
You're missing an income of $4,700 a year
Yes,
for the one bedroom or bachelor, pardon me?
Yes.
So what would you like to revise your amount based on that fact?
doing math under stress.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I put you on the
Easy to
spot
do,
here, but
But
maybe
I
we'll,
would agree that I should
Yeah.
revise my number.
okay, maybe I'll put it this way, you're on the low side. I think
I'm on the
you're-
low side, and that's fair based on that piece of
Okay.
information.
I won't ask you to recalculate it.
Thank you.
Okay, and regarding the RAP grant in 2004, if my memory serves me right, was that building gutted? Was it stripped out and re-insulated and new windows put in,
We
new
had new
electrical?
windows.
Okay, new window, or new heating system, electrical?
No, we kept the heating system.
Okay, electrical all the way through?
Electrical was upgraded because it wasn't up to code
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, okay. And new windows all the way around?
Yeah, I think all the windows are new.
Yeah. New flooring?
Yeah, basic, but yes, new flooring.
Any new drywalling at all or re-insulating?
One suite had some walls that were falling down,
Okay,
so that room, or that apartment, it wasn't fully, I don't know if gutted is the correct term, but it was
extensively renovated?
extensively, yeah, it was rotting out of the,
Okay,
It was rotting.
kitchen cabinets, did they do that too? And
we
the
kept
plumbing?
all of the original kitchen cabinets.
Plumbing fixtures, plumbing updated?
I think toilets might have been replaced with a basic
Yeah.
model. All the same tubs were kept. Some sinks were replaced, some were not.
Okay. The roof, flat roof? Is
flat
it
roof, so they
tar and
replaced
gravel?
that with a it was tar and gravel, they replaced it with torch on.
Yeah,
I
okay, so
don't
they
know if I'm
renovated,
saying
yeah.
that right, but
So they extensively renovated it
it was a lot.
to rehab it, right? Yeah. and
Yeah,
bring
because
back
it
in.
wasn't really livable,
Yeah,
there was only
yeah.
2 apartments occupied
Yeah.
when we purchased it.
Any idea on the permit value that was taken out by RAP or the contractor?
No,
Was it, would it be fair to say it was probably, was it $500,000?
I have no idea, I don't know how that works, I don't know anything about that.
Okay, yeah, okay.
I don't know why a permit would be that much money when the.
I just
money
remember,
spent
from
is
experience,
less.
I remember there was extensive, you know, it was meant to rehabilitate old buildings and,
Yeah.
you know, there was quite a bit of money spent, but maybe in this case, it sounds like they didn't do a full gutting of the property. That's all I'm trying to establish here.
Yeah. Nobody wanted the job because it was a lot, it was pretty,
Extensive,
yeah, well, I mean, the place had cockroaches, but we didn't know why.
yeah,
We got caught a little bit, but what can you
yeah,
do?
yeah. Okay,
The cats and the cockroaches.
that's all my questions, thank you.
And I have no questions. So, if you have no summation, would you like anything, to say anything in summation?
I did.
We've received quite a lot of information, so if you don't have anything special, you don't have to say anything.
Okay, I mean, I'll have to leave it to you to recalculate the number,
Yes.
but I don't see how $5,000 could change, an increased income of $5,000 could make the building worth $150,000 more. I'll redo my numbers at home and see what happens, but, yeah, I mean, I've never challenged the taxes before, even though it's a huge expense. And I understand I'm not challenging the taxes, I'm challenging the assessed value. But the tenants are directly affected. When the assessed value goes up, the taxes go up, I have to raise my rents. I'm allowed to raise my rents because the taxes went up. And low-income tenants are affected by that. So I understand that it still has to be a fair number, and that we're basing the decision on the math. But I just don't see how they could possibly get to those numbers, unfortunately. Especially since I have to deal with a different level of government, also, and the provincial government controls, has a different system than the city is using. And the city, my understanding is that the city is trying to correct an error of undervaluing properties all in 1 year. That's something somebody told me, I don't know if that's correct or not. But I was told that the city was undervaluing the properties and they're trying to correct that at this time. And it would appear that with a $75,000 increase in my value, that they're attempting to do that all in 1 year.
We will determine the value as of this date of what we're supposed to do.
That's fair. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming,
Thank you.
and you'll receive our decision by registered mail.
And do you have apartment number 1 at 394 Agnes? No, you don't have apartment number 1, you just have my building address, I think.
Ellen, do you have the right address? Do you have the proper address?
Agnes Street?
One,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
number 1.
1-394? Oh, okay, thank you.
We'll take a 5-minute break here, then we'll start. Short 5 minutes. Okay, I call the meeting back to order. And we will start with 511 Gateway Road.
611.
611 Gateway Road. And we have a
Do you want to swear in or affirm? On that or not?
request for,
Please state your full name,
Walensky Konstantin,
and you affirm the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
and just was,
Okay, thank you. Do you have any evidence to share with the panel, or is it just verbal information?
verbal and like, yeah,
Okay, that's fine.
yeah. Okay.
No. What's that? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Yes, of course. Yeah, we can stay in here for the non-cool. Yeah, we don't have to get up this time. There's only one person. Assessor.
okay, we have a non-compliance issue, so I'll ask the assessor to explain your position, please.
Okay, page 2. You see the assessor income information. It's been sporadic in terms of returning information on the property. 16 and 17 both weren't. 17 is the year in question. So didn't receive any income and expenses. The regular mailing was sent out, and then on page 7, the registered mail, rather, was sent out to the property, to the owner, and we didn't get a reply. As such, burden of proof for non-cooperation is being asked.
Okay. Mr. Belinsky, do you have anything to add about the non-compliance issue, that you didn't send the information back?
It's saying like, last time it's been sent like in 2016, right?
Yes, and the city sent you another request in 2017. The assessor is saying that they received no reply.
2018.
And 2018 as well, and the assessor saying you didn't reply. Is that correct?
Probably, yeah.
Do you understand what this is about? When you don't comply, when you don't send the information?
And I just don't think, maybe I missed like for 1 year, like, but it's shown like 2 years, like, because sometimes, actually, I don't remember which it was year, but I applied, I dropped like in the city right here on the main street, but they sent me like again letter saying they not received any. This way I'm like, I don't know, like sometimes you drop in documents and they just not getting them, like it's disappear like in the middle between floors, like so.
You're saying you dropped it at the front desk and it was never,
And I'm like, maybe it's right, like for 1 year I missed like to deliver, but it showed like 2 years, like.
okay? Any questions, Mr. Diamond, any questions?
I have no questions of any.
Okay, sir, on page 2 of the assessor's brief, He details the history of the request for income information. They're saying that they received it June 15th, 2016, but they didn't receive it for 2017 or 2018. So there's 2 years missing there. And we're
Yeah,
talking
this is
about,
what
right
I
now,
asked
we're
for,
talking about 2018.
2017 information, your request letter was sent in April 18th.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, should we go outside? If you guys would leave us for a minute, we will make our decision. If you and the assessor could step out for just a minute. Please. Okay, I call the meeting back to order. And it is our decision that we will grant the non-compliance issue to the assessment department. So, Mr. Valinsky, if you would like to present us with your information, you'll start, please.
For information, for example,
Have you brought us any information?
no, like, just like I said, maybe I can talk a little bit.
Okay. Well, tell us about your building and,
Like it's shown here, all of the almost right, just when it's you come in on the page 4, it's saying like gross floor area per unit. Did you see it saying like 1,320 square feet per unit? So it's for sure not correct because every unit it's not even 600 feet, like it's under 600 feet, it's not 1,300.
okay, well, the assessor will address that then during his presentation. The assessor will explain that. Well, okay, you're asking a question, you're asking him to explain the gross floor area.
Per unit.
Okay,
And as well, I understand it was little bit hard for him, like maybe more exactly like rent per unit. I got a little bit lower number, like it's.
Okay, well, we'll start with the assessor,
Oh, yeah,
that
sure.
question.
Sure.
The appellant saying that the square foot area per unit isn't correct. Do you have any information to,
Is that like a presentation?
in your brief, he's saying that 1,258 square feet he's questioning.
Well, it's gross floor area per unit, so it's gross floor area, that would be inclusive of all common spaces as well, hallways, lobbies, so it's not unit, area. It's, you take the entire square footage of the building, and then you divide it by 4.
Okay.
So when you're saying it's smaller, it would be smaller because there's hallways, and that's what the sale, my comparables are, that's what's taken into account as well. It's taken into account the fact that they have common area, hallways, whatnot. Those unit sizes of these buildings would be smaller than the gross floor area.
Okay. Any other questions? Or any other information, or is there information you'd like to present?
And I got some kind of complaint regarding all of this, like increase, which was done, like, yeah. Because it's actually, I saw increase on this place was about almost 21% for the last time, like, and if I've been heard like people talking before, actually increase based on the incomes, right, of this properties. It's not became producing so much income because we allowed it to increase just so much, first of all, and second, many times, for example, I am allowed it increase, but I am not doing, because if you're trying to keep the same people, you can't every year just give it notices, like, we in some kind really hard business, like really hard to get good tenant, like, this way you're not gonna go crazy with every year, like with yours, like 1% increase, and you just, because somebody just can, like, getting tired of all of these notices and just find some other place. And like, if you wanna keep somebody good, you're not gonna give every year notices. This way, it's becoming not even 2%, it can be like 1%, or even sometimes not percentage at all. And here just 21% like went up building this, like it's not many changes on the incomes, like, right? Like, and building stayed the same building, like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if there's any questions.
This is the questions, like, why it became like 21% increase in that? This is the biggest question.
Well, the assessor hasn't made his presentation yet, so we'll see how that goes. But right now, it's questions on, if anybody has, assessor, if you have a question on the
Have
property.
you had any renovations to the property since you purchased it?
I'm keeping like livable this place. All of the time somebody moving around, I'm supposed to make this place look presentable, different. You're never gonna get other tenant, right? Like,
So
right
just
now,
paint-
for example, I'm renovating like one apartment. Somebody left like this apartment. Like, let's say, thanks God I'm a renovator by myself, right? Like, and it's cost me just materials expenses. But I got from some different contractor, like, estimate of renovation should be done, like, just to be able to re-rent it again, this place. It's about $7,000, like, just one little apartment, like, and it's, I can't keep rolling this things, like, without all of the time renovating, like, it's non-stop, like, business, like, you renovating non-stop, just, like, without even major renovations, like, all of the time. paintings, like flooring, like I don't know, all of the time. Bathrooms, it's not like yours home bathroom, like you can keep like for 20, 30 years and it's still beautiful. Like every like 6, 7 years it's get destroyed, like, and you should like start over like again.
Okay.
Those are my questions.
Questions? Diamond?
Okay, so this is a fourplex, right?
Yes.
And does each unit have a separate entrance? And you don't have a common hallway, right? There's a separate entrance for each unit?
Yeah, I got 2 entrances, yeah, and like 2 staircases, like on each floor,
Right.
2 apartments. Like,
So,
yes.
yeah, so there's no hallways, common hallways, everybody has their own entrance.
No, they got the entrances from the hallway.
There's a hallway,
Yeah.
a common hallway that goes through the whole building, or is it just from the front door?
No, like right now we're talking about 611 gateway, right? You got
Right.
2 entrances, west and east.
One person
and-
goes, right, one person goes to the first
through-
floor and the other person
through-
goes upstairs.
Yeah, through all of the building, and you got 2 hallways.
So there's 2 entrances, and there's 2, so stairway upstairs and an entrance to the ground floor unit, right?
2 units.
Yes.
Yes.
So the units then basically would be close to 1,320 square feet.
Because I understand, maybe I'm wrong, like I understand
That's fine.
when he said like it's saying like unit square footage, like, and I know exactly what is the unit square footage, and it's just even not 600, like it's pretty small apartments, like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you haven't provided us with your rents. How much rent do you get in these units?
It's in a range between 720 up to 850, yeah. And it's becoming altogether, I just divided, it's like middle, it's 790. Like 790 is average, like in this place. Because I got somebody, he's paying 720, another paying like 770, one 820, one 850, like, but,
Okay, so the high 700-800 range a month.
yeah, 790. Yeah.
And the tenants pay their own utilities.
Again?
The tenants pay their own utilities?
They paying hydro. I'm paying water and I'm paying heat because it's boiler heat like that.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Bob? Questions?
Yeah, so the average rent is $790 a month,
Yeah.
and you're including water and, is it hot water heat, based heat?
Yeah, hot water.
Okay, air conditioning is individual window units?
It's actually no, like every tenant got his own like window conditioner.
Right, okay, yeah, okay, and you paid, and I kind of cheated with the assessor's brief, you paid $395,000 for this
Yeah,
building through the
yeah.
MLS in 2011.
Yes.
And the only upgrades that you've done are painting and decorating and maybe keeping the floors clean and
Exactly
new
what is
toilets?
get destroyed, like. I
How about
should-
roof and windows?
Yeah, I did the roof
Okay,
about 3-4 years ago, like.
okay.
Because it's lost, it's it, no more roof almost, right? Like, and
And-
windows I replaced a few, like, it's
Okay.
some of them replaced it before I bought, like, and I replaced a few too. Like,
Does each suite have a parking spot?
yes.
And
once
you
spot.
charge rent for it, or is it
No,
included?
it's included. in
Okay.
it. And the same, I got little storage, and it's as well, like, in the rent.
Okay. Heating system, is it hot water?
Yes.
Have you updated that at all? boiler?
Actually, just few repairs, but
Okay.
no yet, no.
Okay, and my last question is, the assessor's assessing it at $417,000. If you feel that that's wrong, what is your estimate of the value if it would have been marketed in 2018?
I don't know what to say.
You're
But
saying,
it's like,
oh, you're saying 417 is wrong, that's why you're hearing here?
yeah, because I saw it's like increasing of 21 almost percent, like it's 70-something thousand dollars.
Yeah, but that's irrelevant to us, it's what the market value is as of 2018. To be fair, maybe it was under assessed before, possibly last time, but anyway, we're looking at evidence today for 2018 market value. You paid $395,000 for it 8 years ago, and the assessor's assessing it a little 2 or 3% more than the purchase price. So what do you think the value should be?
Yeah, probably it's still the same, like about 400, like, yeah.
Around 400,000, okay?
Yeah.
And you could see, I'll make a comment here, you can see how important it is that the assessor would have that income and expense statement handed in so that we could see what the rents are, what the expenses are. It would allow us to analyze whether the assessment is correct or not, and it would allow the assessor to, feel comfortable that he's assessing it properly too. But it's very important that you submit that income and expense statement. It helps everybody to do their job. Anyway, that's my comment.
No, you're right.
Yeah, okay. No other questions, thank you.
I have no questions. We'll have the assessor present his evidence, please.
Okay, roll number 0206 221 000 Gateway. 417 on the April 118 reference date, 4 suites, 5 outdoor parking stalls. Property, again, we brought up, sold 2011 for $395. Look at the very last page of my brief. It's the MLS listing. So it was open market. It was on the market for about 2 weeks. I went for $20,000 over asking. So we don't have income and expense mailers from the past 2 years, unfortunately. So model parameters were used for income and expenses and capitalization rate for a rounded estimated market value of 417. Given how market value of apartments has increased over the past 7 years, and we're not that much higher than the open market arm's length sale on MLS. I didn't make any changes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions of the assessor on what he has just presented here?
No, we just spoke already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have no questions, thank you.
Bob?
No questions, thank you.
I don't have any questions either. I think we've covered it well. Thank you. We'll move on to the next property. Just 609 Gateway. This property as well has a non-compliance issue, so I'll ask the assessor to update us on it, give us your side of the story, please.
It's the same as last time.
To last time.
It's the page 2, 16 and 17 weren't returned. You can see on page 9 that it went out by registered mail the second attempt. It went out on June 8th and it wasn't returned. Same as last time, no mailer, so I have no choice but to ask her not to go out.
Thank you. And Mr. Belinsky, have you anything to add about this particular part of it, the sending in of the mailers, similar to last time?
Well, it was done the same time or it wasn't, for sure, like, because this is actually 2 places I got and if I was given the same time. Maybe I dropped and it was disappeared one of the second, yeah, maybe it's my fault, but yeah, yes.
Okay. questions of any?
It sounds like everything is the same as last time, so I think that there's no further questions that we will ask them.
Okay, I don't think anybody has to leave the room. It will be a similar, we will grant the assessment department non-compliance. And therefore, you will start off by presenting your information. Mr. Valinsky.
Yeah, it's, I mentioned like for myself, like it's actually the same square footage of unit, but it's here maybe in this specific place, like I got less of a, let's say, common area, because I don't have like all of the way through the building hallways, like it's a little bit less, like, but monthly rent is the same, and just again the same, all of this the same, and more than 20% increase, and like this is like, yeah, this is my question.
Okay. Thank you.
It's here, it's in this place, 21%.
Mr. Sesser, any questions of
No questions.
Mr. Diamond? Would you like to ask?
Okay, well, I noticed you bought the building in 2013 for $395,000, and the city has it assessed at 401, which is really just a smidgen over that after a 6-year or 5-year period.
Maybe like previous chairperson said, like maybe it was like under appraisal, like, but maybe I paid too much, like, you know, like it's some kind hard to say, right, like what it was
Okay.
actually, right.
Well,
But,
okay, maybe you can tell us on the basis that you agreed to pay $395,000 for it then. Did you look at the rents at the time? And
Because, you know what, you're looking sometimes to buy some place, and it's not too many on the market usually, like I'm trying, you know what, this building I bought after I've been looking for some place more than in a year, like, because it's hard to get like pretty nice solid building, and it's not like really say like a criminal area or whatever, like, and it's not easy, like, yeah, and maybe I paid little bit too much for this, like, and, yeah.
okay, thank you.
And biggest my concern, like, I understand it's multi-family, you look a little bit different, like, when you're calculating, like, increasing. Like, I've been dealing with some city guy, assessor, like, just maybe 2-3 months ago. And I spoke with him, what happened in the residential department. He said to me, all of the increases for the last 2 years, it was just like about 4.2%, like it's like went up like building. And this is like 21%. This is, looks to me like little bit difference between this number, like 4% and 21%. Yeah, this is like as well, like, okay, this multifamily, and I talked already about all of the increases. You stand with almost with the same income. Why it's becoming like 20% more? Like, it's this way, like, on top, we paying like, start and pay more like a hydro.
You don't really answer my question now. The question I asked you was basically, but we've been through that, but you didn't provide any financial information, and the city's used, you know, their standard information to come up with a value, which really has valued very little above what you in fact paid for it.
Yeah.
And you didn't give us any contrary information
But-
to follow, so.
But just a second, previous assessment was based on something too, right?
It's possible the previous system was too low, and maybe they corrected it now.
Yeah.
We don't know, we have no information here.
No, but I just checked, like, for example, for 2012 assessment of this building, and it was just 212,000. It's like, right now, we're looking at increasing almost double, like, yeah, for the, like, 60 years, like.
You know, the fact that you paid only, you know, $395, and it was only valued to $100,000, I can see why you're quite happy with the assessments before. And I think any purchaser would have been, but it seems that that is apparent, that it was under assessed, but anyway, we're here today.
Bob?
But
No
like
question.
again,
Thank you.
difference between 4% and 20% still pretty big difference, right?
Okay, I don't have any questions either. We'll hear from the assessor now, please.
609 Gateway 0206 0022 4 suites, 4 outdoor parking spots, there are 2 bedrooms, as brought up before. June 19th, 2013, it was purchased for $395. Last page in my brief shows the MLS listing. They're asking $395, we got $395. It was a different seller than the last property, so it's not like it's an associated or non-arm's length, multi-role sale. It's completely different. It's, 0 days on the market, asking price. So I didn't have any information, and model was applied, and you know, a little less than 5 years down the line, we're only $6,000 higher than the $395,000 sale price. I didn't make any changes.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions of what the assessor has just
No,
presented?
I asked already, like, yeah.
Okay, we'll see if the panel has
No
questions.
questions.
No questions, thank you.
I have one short question you might not be able to answer, but days on market 0, how could be 0 days on the market? That seems,
Probably still the day it was put
No,
on.
it was
Yeah.
private sale, like,
oh, okay,
like,
sort of done before it got to the market.
I met the seller, like,
okay.
and we just agreed, like,
Okay. Okay, that's all my questions. That concludes the hearing. For this, that concludes this property, I should say. Thank you for coming, Mr. Valinsky. Oh, yeah, well, it just concludes this property. Thank you for coming, and you'll hear from the secretary. We'll be sending out our decision by registered mail.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and left on the docket is 1477 Notre Dame Avenue.
So 1477 Notre Dame, I had correspondence with the property owner ahead of time, and we were a bit high, just looking at the income and expenses. I looked at a 5-year history, and then we applied an average, we agreed to apply an average to the most recent 2 years, and with the 5.3 cap rate, the recommendation is to lower the assessment down from $3,572,000 to $3,398,000. And he was fine with that.
So from 3,572,000
To
$3,398,000.
$398,000.
Okay, does anybody have any?
I have a question.
Questions?
Why on this one did we use a 5.3% cap rate?
This one.
We're talking about 4.8s everywhere else, and the building was built, looks like in 1970, 72 area.
Gross floor area, over 15,000 square feet. In this market region, it gets a 5.3. The ones that are under 8,000 square feet, we have, for this age of building, we've got 4.8.
Okay, so it's a square footage issue in this building.
The square
It's different
footage-
than the others.
That's where the determination
Okay.
is made.
That's my question, thank you.
Bob?
Yes, thank you. So, after you revise the NOI and still use the 5.3%?
Yeah, there's
cap
no
rate?
change to the cap.
Yeah, we should revise rents maybe?
Revised net operating income.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, that's my only question.
I have no questions. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
That concludes our hearing.